These are 7 Airsoft classes that you need to know about before you start Airsoft or if you plan to switch up your play style, and I'm going to go over the pros and cons of each one. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Now, I have used just about every class there is in Airsoft, including some of the oddball ones, such as Riot Shield, Grenadal, and the Vehicle Gunner. Juggernaut is about the only one that I have not used. I do have a kit for it, but it's just never seen gameplay. Today, though, I am going to be going over the most common Airsoft class types that you will see on the field. The others I just mentioned are either very rare or event specific. Now, keep in mind this list isn't really in a specific order, as the best class is for you to decide depending on your playstyle. Now, I am going to show you some weapons from each class, so you can view some of the weapons within that class setup. If you see any that you are interested in picking up, I do have review and gameplay videos, as these are from my own personal collection. Now, I am going to go over the sniper / bolt action rifle class first, because it's one of the ones that new players always want to jump on, being they've seen some of the awesome long-range shots on YouTube, typically by content creators such as Novrich and Silo. This can even be because of media, like movies and video games, tend to make it stand out as the really awesome role, so people tend to want to use them. Most new players will get something like this. This is a Amoeba Striker. It's one of the cheaper rifles on the market, and players tend to pick these up because they are very affordable. There are also several videos on how to upgrade them. It's okay, it's not anything special, as it hits around 350 FPS on .28s, and just about every AEG on average can hit around that. So you find that the majority of low-end snipers will tend to hit around about 350 to 400 FPS, which is kind of pushing it on any weight over 0.20 grams. My point is, if you want to use a bolt action rifle, I'd buy something decent enough that at the very least it can outrange the average AEGs, because the AEGs will also have full auto on you as well, to where you have one shot. I recommend getting one that is VSO 10 compatible as well. Those are the most common sniper parts on the market that you can find, and they tend to be pretty easy to upgrade because of that. Now, what does a sniper class do exactly? Well, their objective is to typically remain unseen, where they can pick off who they can. When I use this class, I tend to be highly aggressive and push hold onto the enemy team. This is extremely uncommon, as I tend to have a very aggressive playstyle, but I do find it tends to make the enemy team less likely to engage the area, as they see me in high alert, not afraid to get into combat, knowing that I have range on my side. The main reason for this, though, is because the sniper class is not my main. It's just something that I have used and tried out. I've used this about every class. I've tried everything just to get an idea of what is out there. But my point is that you can still remain stealthy or very aggressive if you choose to. Just know it's not the best class to push players hardcore with. It's definitely designed for stealth. It's generally not like the videos on YouTube either. It's very slow paced and not a lot of movement. Because you gotta remember, they have to make it really quick pace to keep it entertaining, so that way the viewers don't get bored. If they just made it like the actual gameplay, not a lot would happen for like 20-30 minutes. So it's a very slow paced playstyle generally. I usually like to be in the action, which is why I play aggressive. And the other thing about sniping is it's not physically demanding, which is nice, being you're just staying in one spot. Unless you choose to do something crazy like climbing up a tree or trying to get a high point to get at a good view location. But otherwise, other than that, it's pretty easy to move with a sniper and find a good location and not have to do a ton of movement because you're not running all over the place. Now, you also need to be aware that if you have never used a bolt action before, I would recommend borrowing one before you purchase one. if you can, because here's the thing, most players do not use the bolt action. That's generally because they take a lot of extra skill, and they'll set up very differently from everything else. Most people don't start with them, and I think the most players just kind of get used to what they started with, and they tend to just stay with that, because that's what they know how to use, that's what they're used to. So they've learned that, and they've got experience with that. And if you start another class, you're going to have less experience with that. So I think that's why there's not very many bolt action users. And you do get one shot, and if you miss, you might just give yourself away, which is another reason why you shouldn't be aggressive as a sniper like I am. You want to wait for the right moment to take your shot. Your shot can also change direction dramatically depending on where the wind is coming from. And the further out your target is, the more you have to adjust for your BB drop. You want to use heavyweight BBs, generally .32 and higher, to cut through any wind you may have. 3.2s, it might be on a little bit of low side, but it's decent enough that you should still get some good range. I've done Airsoft for around 5 years, and I've ran this channel for 2 years. Since I started the channel, I was going out every weekend up until recently. And I can tell you that I have not ran into very many snipers. And the amount that was skilled enough to really be a high threat, I could pretty much count them on one hand. So I would highly advise not to start with this class right off the bat. Instead, I would highly recommend the next class that's on the list, which is the assault class or rifle class, whichever you'd rather call it. This class is composed of M4s and AKs. This is the most common class used to where it's basically the default class. These rifles have semi and full auto options with solid ammo capacity. Pretty much everyone starts in this class at the beginning, whether they got their own or a rental. The majority of players never leave this class. They tend to stick with it, only trying out a few other things here and there. Now, why does everyone stick with this class in particular? Well, it's because it's the best option for all-round standard play, as they tend to have decent range, good weight, and plenty of attachment space. You also have companies like Lancer Tactical, SEMA, and G&G that produce good quality AEGs that are all decently priced. Many fields like to rent out Lancer Tactical in particular because they are very good to start out with, and they won't break the bank. They are very affordable. SEMA is also a good starter if you're an AK user, and G&G is slightly pricier than both of them, I believe, but it's still a great option. I haven't used G&G, but I'm told that they are very solid and they're very good to start out with. This class can be within close range and even manage to get off some further shots as well, depending on the parts you're running inside the gearbox. A solid bucking, piston, and spring can get you some full outrange shots, and it is definitely outranging the cheap bolt action rifles. Crytek, for instance, is a higher up brand on the market, and they can get some good accurate shots. Crytek is one of the rifles that the experienced players tend to like to go for because they perform really nicely, but you're going to pay for that performance. Now, most players pick the M4 or the AK, but there's other rifles that you pick from as well. The question is, which one between these two are the best for you? I do own both. I actually have a classic wood AK that I have painted gold, as that's what I used to use in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And I wanted to actually have that in real life. I wanted to actually use it. I also have two M4s. I just picked up a new one, which was the Lancer Tactical Interceptor. The nice thing about getting a M4 is that the mag pouches are everywhere. It is one of the reasons most players choose this class. It's just about any vest you purchase anywhere pretty much will come with M4 pouches by default. It is the default go-to grab and go Airsoft AEG on the field. and fulls also have plenty of room for attachments. This is where AK kind of lacks, is in the customization options. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love the classic AK look, but the reality is it's a better option to get a tactical AK or in full over the classic wooden AK. That's it I have for that class. Now, let's say you want something smaller than a rifle, something easier to run a gun with, or perhaps you're on the young side and you're just starting out and the long guns are just too big for you because, well, they're the same height as you. Well, then, let's look no further than my personal favorite, the SMG class. Being I have an overly aggressive playstyle, this tends to work the best for me. I like to be constantly on the move and not be in one place for too long, as that gives my position away quite easily. Now, this is a Battle X. This is one of my favorite SMGs. My Scorpion Evo is right above it, but this has assault barrel, still keeping enough rail space for attachments, a PDW stock, and Glock style mags. Compact ARs do tend to be the Speed Softer's AEG of choice, as you may have noticed online, due to their mobility and compact size, except they usually have an HPA tank with a scythe trigger thing that tends to just really BB spam, which completely removes any realism, and it just becomes a paintball match at that point. With the right ports, though, you can still get solid range in this compact size. Now, you won't be engaging players across the map out of the box, unless you have something like the ASG Scorpion Evo, which is what I use for bigger fields. This gets some really solid range of .28 BBs as it's built with high-end ports, but they can be pricey. You definitely are paying for the nice ports for sure, and the performance. It's definitely going to cost you for it. With this class, you will be faster around the corners, not having to worry about your barrel getting in the way. The magazines typically tend to be very thin in comparison to the rifle class, so you may have to buy pouches specific to the AEG of choice. There is AR and AK options with salt barrels on the market as well, if you'd rather have the normal mag size. Keep in mind, if you have the salt barrel normal mag sized versions, fields may count it as a rifle class, even though it has a Sultan barrel. This may not allow you to use full auto depending on the rules with the rifle class. You can get around that if you pick up one like I have, being it uses pistol mags. It's counted in the SMG class. So you might want to get a version like this, depending on your field rules, if you want both semi and full auto. And you would want to have both options, as that's what the switch is for. That's why you have a fun switch. This way I can technically still use the AR, or at least the platform, but it's counted as an SMG class, so it doesn't matter on the rules. I can use it however I want to use it. Now, the next class is the Marksman. This is a step above the rifle class, but still under the sniper class, so it's kind of a... You want a rifle class, but you want to play a sniper kind of role. So it's an in-between. If you kind of like both, that's a good in-between to go for. This is essentially your semi to full auto DMRs. Keep in mind, most fields will not allow full auto use on these, because the real versions have so much recoil. It's pretty much impossible to control. The full auto on the real versions of these is mostly for just spraying a whole bunch of bullets in a group, and you're not really trying to hit anything. You're mostly just doing suppressive fire. These tend to weigh a bit more. I have a SEMA M14 and a FAL. The FAL is kind of a weird one. It's another one of those in-between rifles where it can be classified as either an assault rifle or a marksman. Mostly depending on the field, it's an assault rifle build, so usually it'll get set as the assault rifle class, but it uses a marksman rifle caliber, so some fields might set it in the Marksman class. It might be another way to get around your field's rules to steal a throttle and a Marksman rifle, but there's some stuff on the market that just are weird, and they become in between class setups, like the Crytek LMG. It's not really an LMG, but it isn't really a rifle either. It's basically an AR with a LMG mag shoved into it. So some stuff's just kind of oddball. So be aware of that. Some of the stuff you might see might end up in like a either or class because of the way it's set up depending on the field rules. Now, as a marksman class, you're probably not going to be running this too much like a sniper style, but definitely has the ability to play more aggressive than the sniper can. If you want to do sniping, the marksman class is a good start, being an in-between option, as you can always throw a scope on these as well. The SEMA M14s tend to be pretty solid and they are affordable, and you can definitely run a scope on it. I've only used a red dot on mine, but they seem to do just fine with a scope as well, and I've seen players take out the old spring, they swap out it for a newer, bigger, heavier spring to get even further range. Keep in mind, these do not have quick chain springs though, so you will have to fully take them apart to do that. Now the next class is the pistol only. You're the John Wick, the Jason Bond wannabe. Now, who can blame you? Running around with nothing but a sidearm can be a blast. I personally enjoy using pistols, both in Airsoft and the real steel counterparts. They might not have the most practical use, but they are for sure fun to use. Most pistols won't have a ton of range, but they feel extremely nice in your hand, having that slide moving back and forth, and being one of the affordable gas blowbacks of Airsoft, because generally the gas blowback stuff is very expensive. Tokyo Marui tends to be the best pistol manufacturer on the market. Keep in mind they all made to Japan specs, so the FPS max will be lower than other countries. So you might want a few upgrades to up that a little further. If you're just starting out, a pistol isn't a necessary item, as you can just be fine with a primary, but it is always good to have a backup in case your primary either runs into issues or you run out of ammo. Remember, it's always fast to swap to your secondary. The shotgunner. I've always loved shotguns, and the real counterparts always pack a punch, but man, the Airsoft ones are lacking. I started Airsoft hoping to jump on in as a shotgunner, and I later found myself becoming an SMG user instead. The SEMA Spring shotguns are okay to start out with. They are fun to use, just plan on them being in the pistol range. Shotguns are a very affordable way to get started into Airsoft, especially if you have close quarter fields, but I just feel like they are lacking in Airsoft. I've messed with 2 gas ones on the channel, and they've only lasted for about a few videos and they combusted. One ended up getting HPA'd to repair it. I don't know what happened to the other one. It was a green one that I was using. It probably ended up in a box somewhere. It was one that Savage had. He bought it and we toyed around with it for a couple videos. And it just got some fuel leaks, and then I don't know what happened to it after that. But yeah, they both ended up getting internal leaks, so I'd be careful with picking a shotgun as they seem to have some issues. I sadly don't know of any solid options to give, as I've pretty much stayed away from them. If anyone knows of a solid shotgun for purchase, go ahead and comment them down below, because I'm definitely interested in them, but I haven't seen one that is actually solid enough to go, oh yeah, I'm definitely using this as a go-to item. The LMG guy. This is the Terminator Rambo guy that just deletes a portion of the field. If you have Stormtrooper aim, it will not matter with one of these. The LMGs pump out so many rounds that players will not want to engage you. This is the M249. This is one of the most common LMGs on the field. The LMG guy generally needs to be someone physically capable enough to carry these, as they can weigh a lot. My M249 is a full weight, meaning it weighs about 20 pounds on its own. Mine does weigh a little bit more than that, as I did add some of the real steel blank rounds on the side to make it more realistic, and it does look like it's missing something without them. They do have fake foam options that you can get, so you don't have to overdo it like I did. But I wanted the metal ones, and I already had an ammo belt, so I just strapped it on though. They do make featherweight options if you want one that's not like carrying someone's gym bag around the field. I have held one, and I'm going to be honest, it feels like cheap plastic. It feels like a toy. I mean, yes, granted, all AGs all. I mean, this is Airsoft, but it has zero emulsion to it. It felt lighter than an AR, so I would go with a middle weight at least. The heavyweight ones are a bit overkill, as you do not see LMG players for a reason. Even when I ran mine, players thought I was crazy for carrying a full weight. I've let players hold it to feel the weight, and it instantly turned them off of wanting to run one. Again, the lighter weights you can get away with just fine. You won't have the firepower as the heavy ones, but they are way cheaper as well. They are definitely more affordable. The heavyweights do last longer though. Being full metal, they can take a heavy beating, and they just need a gearbox replacement here and there. Don't buy an LMG unless you know how to tech airsoft stuff. They tend to chew through gills and they shoot a ton of BBs. I actually had to do some tech work on mine out of the box, as the hop up was installed wrong. It had zero hop, it wasn't even hopping them. I don't know what happened, but they missed it. They just missed checking it, I guess, when they put it together. I think they just have too many parts, so sometimes A&K overlooks some stuff. Mine is a A&K slash Evike one. I picked up their limited edition version, so mine probably just had way too many people looking at it. I have no idea. I don't know how they built them. They only made 100 of them, so I don't know if they just picked up like a few and they just changed the color. That's mostly the limited distance thing of it. It's the color. It's just got a special color. Other than that, I don't know what's so special about it besides the two companies threw this thing together. The LMG guy, though, he also doesn't need to worry about much cover. I've had moments where I could just stand there in the open and spray rounds. There was not a lot the opposing side could really do about it. It doesn't matter what the field rules are for full auto either, as the LMG is always full auto allowed, unless they just straight up ban that class. Keep in mind that my LMG does have a 50-foot min. It'll change depending on your field rules, obviously, but that's on like standard field rules, so you will have a pretty decent size minimum engagement distance. But it's an LMG. You don't plan on fighting up close with these at all. You plan on shooting from a distance, and you want to have it hit hold. You want the range, because this is a heavy thing to carry around. So you're not going to be running up close and CQBing with these unless you're just crazy and want to be a madman with it. Now, with the featherweight ones, keep in mind some fields are actually banning them. They are also banning the Crytek LMGs. This is because they are too far away.
things you know